Hey everyone, what's happening? I'm Adam, this is Go-To Outdoors, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a review of my CNOC Outdoors carbon fiber trekking poles that I used on my Appalachian Trail thru hike attempt last year in 2021. So why don't we go ahead and get into this? Now, of course, before I start anything else, I do like to mention, first and foremost, that I am in no way sponsored by CNOC Outdoors. The reviews that you're going to see on my channel are going to be my real world reviews, stuff that I like, stuff that I thought looked interesting, stuff that I purchased and tried out for myself. So I'm not going to pull any punches. There's going to be some pros, there's going to be some cons, and of course at the very end, like all my other videos, I'm going to give you an overall review of how I feel about the particular product. Alright, so now we're getting into things. Let's just go ahead and start with the pros. The first and foremost pro of these carbon fiber trekking poles is going to be the weight. That's the reason a lot of folks actually end up buying carbon fiber trekking poles as opposed to aluminum or anything else, because they are extremely lightweight. Now, CNOC Outdoors actually on their website lists these at being 9.6 ounces a piece, and mine of course weigh a little bit over 10 now. I weighed them at about 10.18 ounces because you'll see on mine I have a whole bunch of tape actually right above the lever locks that are on the sections themselves, but we're going to get to that in a bit. So overall, for the pair of them, you're going to be looking at 19.2 ounces, which that's not bad at all for a set of trekking poles. There are a lot of folks that actually don't use trekking poles. I do, and of course I use two. You don't have to use two, but I did because I need two to actually hold up my tent, my Z-Pax duplex tent that I have. So I wanted to get the pair. I didn't just want to use one single hiking staff or trekking pole while I was out there. So I went ahead and got these. Now, there's a couple other things that I did consider before I bought them. You know, a lot of times you're going to be looking at the aluminum trekking poles that have like shock absorbers or, you know, different things like that, versus a lot of times on the carbon fiber, you're not really going to see a shock absorber on them, which I kind of like as well, because it's one less thing to get kind of wonky and screwed up farther down the line. But carbon fiber, because it is extremely stiff, you really don't need a shock absorber on them because they tend to transmit less vibration to your hand, which is, you know, kind of a great thing anyway. Because the vibrations, if you're constantly clacking these down on the rocks, on everything at the end of the day, you know, you're going to feel it in your hands if you don't have something that's either A, going to take some of that vibration away, or B, like carbon fiber, totally kind of absorb it by itself. So that's just something I liked about that as well. The other thing that I really liked is the fact that these came in a cork grip option. Now, there's a lot that are out there. My old trekking poles that I used 20 years ago, they actually had just straight up rubber grips, which they will give you blisters, they'll chafe you, they're not awesome. The cork, very comfortable, tends to absorb a little bit of the sweat off your hands, so they're not quite as slippery most of the time. I will say in some of the mornings when there's a lot of humidity and dew that's settled at night, you know, after you have used these for a while, I can't talk right now, your hands eventually, you know, the oils from your hands, the sweat's going to soak in there, and first thing in the morning they're going to be a little bit slick, so just keep that in mind. But on top of the grips themselves, I like how it's kind of over molded as well. You'll see it's a very large grip. It's not just the hand grip. You can slide it down a little bit. There's times, you know, if you're reaching up onto something and you don't have your hands in the actual loops, you can use that as a bit more of a grip. And again, it's got nice ridges there to help along with that, just to try and reach a little bit higher up to pull yourself up something. So I thought that was really cool. Now, the wrist straps themselves, I did actually like the fact that they kind of color coded them. One of them came with green lettering on there. The other one was yellow. Does it matter? No. Not one of them's not going to be a right or a left unless you want it to be, kind of like I did. The green one I always used in my right hand, and I kept the wrist strap usually tightened all the way down. The yellow one I used in my left hand, and I didn't have this tightened all the way, because what I would do is, leaving this loose, it's the one I could slip my hand out of if I needed to reach a branch or something else, and I didn't have to worry about this. It's also the one, if there were times when I was just using one trekking pole, the yellow one is the one that always ended up, you know, stuffed right next to my umbrella down the side of my pack. So just a little thing that I thought was cool there. Another thing that I really liked about these is the fact that they have lever locks. These little slip locks here to help extend the sections out. I prefer those a lot more than the twist locks you're going to see on some of the other ones. I never really had a great luck with the twist lock ones. They always seem to work themselves loose, and these you can kind of over tighten a little bit without actually having to worry about your hand slipping or anything like that, because when they're flipped open, let's see if I can get it to focus on that, you'll see this little screw right here. You can actually turn that back and forth. Well, you could if they weren't glued together. Again, I'm going to be getting to that. So I have these set to the point where when they're cinched down, they're not going to move at all. And for the most part, that's the adjustment. Once you get it set, the locking system's kind of a personal preference, because most folks will actually learn what their setting is, set it, and not have to worry about it for the rest of the day or the rest of their hike or whatever. Mine, because again, I use these as the poles for my tent, I actually am lucky enough that I could hike with them at the same height all day long. Being that I'm 6'1", I didn't have to shorten them at all, and I didn't have to lengthen them at all for the way that I was hiking, which was really, really handy for me. So at the end of the day, I would just set the locks where I needed them to be, and I did not touch them after a while. So that was just really easy. The last thing I really want to mention is the carbide tip that you're going to find on this right here. Focus on that. There we go. There you go. So carbide tips on there. Mine are very, very worn down. I do need to replace them. But they're great when they're new. They're really sharp. They have kind of a star pattern to help you grip onto certain things. When they do wear down, you will... Well, again, I'm going to try and find a way to get a better view on this, and if I can, I'm going to pop it in the video right here while I keep talking. And when the tip wears down, it rounds off really badly, and it really started to slip for me on a lot of the rocks by the time I got to Southern Virginia on my trip this year. And it really wasn't that fun. The rubber tips that originally come with these, again, let's zip back real quick. The threaded part right here, you'll see right here, they have either a mud basket or a snow basket that comes on them, as well as a rubber slip fit kind of cover that cover the tip right here, the carbide tip. I peel those off and I chuck them. I don't like them. The only thing that the mud baskets tend to do for me is hang on to leaves when you punch through them, and they just... Leaves on the trekking poles is a huge pet peeve of mine, so I just ended up getting rid of them. Does it save a lot of weight? No, but it's just one less thing you have to worry about. For the folks that I did know that were hiking with me that actually kept the rubber tips on their trekking poles, within about 150 or 200 miles, again, they didn't have NOx, but a lot of the brands are this way, your tip's going to end up punching through those anyway, so you really don't have much use, in my opinion, after those punch through, because at that point you might as well just use the carbide tip the way it is. So it is what it is. So those are the things that I really did like about the trekking poles themselves. Now, of course, we have to get to the things that I did not like so much. First and foremost, if you're looking at carbon fiber trekking poles, you're going to be looking to drop a couple dollars. These are not cheap. These are right now listed at $189.99 on CNOC Outdoors' website. And that's a bit steep for some folks. You can get a really good pair of aluminum trekking poles anywhere from about $80 to $120 from what I've seen, depending on if you go down to Amazon or REI, or depending on what site you go to or what brand you happen to look at. There are a lot of really inexpensive aluminum options that are very, very good, very, very durable. And I have a pair of aluminum Leckies that I like as well, but I like these a little bit more, just for the longer distance aspect of things. The fit and finish on these is good, but it's not great. They could have a little bit more attention to detail on a couple things here and there. Like on this one, you'll see, I don't know if I can focus in on it, but there's kind of a lot of goopy extra adhesive that's where the cork is onto the carbon fiber shaft itself. And of course under here, can't see it right now, but there was also the same kind of issue, a little bit of excess adhesive that was where the carbon fiber was stuck into the slip fit, the lever locks. And is it a big thing? No, it's just something I wanted to mention. It doesn't affect the performance of these at all, but again, it's just an attention to detail thing. And again, if you're going to be spending, $190, almost $200 on a pair of trekking poles, having that little bit of extra polish, it probably couldn't hurt. I mean, your customers kind of matter. But anyway, now again, like I said, for those people that are looking for them, the fact that these do not have any shock absorbers could be a con for some folks. It's not for me. I don't mind. I prefer actually not having trekking poles with shock absorbers. But the other thing you have to note is that carbon fiber, it's extremely strong, it's extremely stiff, but it doesn't like to flex. And of course, again, on the Appalachian Trail, there's a lot of folks that tend to use their poles by slapping them and clacking them together to try and make noise if they think there's going to be, a bear around. I would never recommend clacking together, carbon fiber trekking poles with any kind of, speed or force loud enough to make noise to scare away a bear, because once you create a stress fracture in carbon fiber, you're starting to see the beginning of the end. Aluminum poles, if they bend, a lot of times you can bend those back into place and still keep using those. If you bend a carbon fiber pole to the point of it cracking, it's done. You got to get a whole new section and start fresh, because you just can't bend them back. Once it cracks, it's cracked, it's finished. So that's kind of a con, but again, I knew that going in, and I didn't, of course, snap any of my poles. I really didn't have a problem with that, but that is another thing to obviously keep in mind. Another minor thing that kind of bothered me is the lettering. While I knew it was going to happen, it started to wear off a lot faster than I thought it would. So there was a CNOC Outdoors logo on both of the actual shaft themselves. This little piece of green, I doubt you can even see that, but that's all that's left of the original logos. The logos I didn't care about, and again, on the shaft itself, let's see if I can get that to focus. There is measurements that are really wearing off. On the side that I had facing forward, they're pretty much completely gone. Again, it's not really a big deal once you learn your trekking poles and about where they're going to have to be to fit you for the day. Just set it to that point, lock it down, don't move it again. Or, push comes to shove, get the measurement you want, even if the letters are worn off, hit it with a Sharpie, get yourself a mark, you're good to go until you need to change things up again. Now, of course, time to address the elephant in the room, and that is, of course, the Luco tape that I have on each one of the lever locks for the sections on my trekking poles. When I was doing my hiking, I was about 60 miles in, so it was day 5 to 6. Got my first good rainstorm, and I don't know if it was just because this was an early version of their trekking poles, or an earlier version of the trekking poles, that had an issue with any adhesive or whatever, but the lever lock would stay, but where the shaft went into that lock, that adhesive failed. So my pole stuck into some mud that day, and I kept walking in here, punk, it just popped right out. The whole section popped right out. So I was a little frustrated. Got back to camp the next day after limping along again. It was pouring rain, so I couldn't put anything on it that day. So it probably slipped out, came apart 24 times while I was hiking the next couple miles to camp that night. So I got to camp, and I popped this tape on here, and it was all fine, all well and good. And I had no problems with that particular joint after that. Now it does twist a little bit, but I taped the living crap out of this thing. It's not going to move ever again until I take it off again. So that was the first joint right here. Obviously, with each of the other 3 joints, by the time I made it to Irwin, Tennessee, all of these joints had failed. I said a lot of bad words while I was up there. I was very frustrated, again, because you spend almost $200 on a pair of trekking poles. It's not the kind of thing you would expect to happen. This one started to fail 60 miles in. And now I have had 3 failures, as you would notice here real quick. This is the problem. Their epoxy fails on their slip joint locks. Now I will say, when the failures did happen, again, after saying my bad words and getting it out of my system, I did call them directly. Of course, I happen to be where I needed to be to take a break during the middle of the week when they had business hours. And when I called up, a young lady named Emily was extremely helpful. Answered my questions, gave me a call back. I actually sent him an email after I couldn't get a hold of him the day before. And I got an answer to my email within about 2 hours. That's fantastic for a little small cottage company like this. So, talked with her on the phone, sent her a couple pictures of what happened, and really no problem at all. They warranted me a new pair of trekking poles, which of course are in this box right here. I have not yet opened them because by the time I got back on the trail, I had to order another set of poles, but that's a whole other thing. But that gives me a perfect example to show you what these look like when they first come out of a box. So let me go ahead and get this open real quick. Okay, so this is the brand new pristine pair of CNOC Outdoors Carbon Fiber trekking poles, which that's the logo I was mentioning that is on them. So that is of course what they look like fresh out of the box. Well, not even out of the box yet, fresh in the box. So again, they came with these baskets. These are the little leaf baskets and the rubber tips. Like I said, those just go ahead and pop right off. And that gets you your shiny, new, pristine carbide tip. And it's not going to focus, is it? Anyway, that's what those should look like, brand new. Mine are rounded over, and like I said, they got slippery. But the logo's going to show up a lot better on the brand new ones, and of course on the straps as well. So these are some that I'm probably going to end up using on my next long distance hike because again, I really do like them. And they actually took some time on the adhesive. It's definitely a different kind of adhesive on this one. I will go ahead and say that up front, so I kind of hope that works out for me. This one had a kind of a brown gunk. Let's try and focus on that, not me. So it had a bit of a brown gunk underneath there. And this one you will see it's kind of a clear adhesive. Fit and finish on these ones actually do look about the same. The amount of adhesive that's right there on those slip fits, there's a lot more of it. I kind of hope that doesn't hurt anything, but it's just going to take time to check them out and go see. So, yeah, those were on there. Anyway, that is the new pair. So that is, again, fantastic customer service from CNOC Outdoors. And again, thank you, Emily. Don't know if you'll ever see this, but if you do, thank you very much for your help. These are going to come in handy for sure on my next hike. So let's put this aside again. So again, the carbide tips, like I said, on mine wore out a little bit. One thing I will mention is they are super easy to replace. I want to say a pair of replacements is about $4 on CNOC's website. A pair of replacement rubber nubs, if you want to use those in place, on top of your tips right there, on top of the carbide tips. I want to say those are about $2, $3 maybe to replace those. I want to say they're $2. Yeah, $1.99 to replace those. And then, of course, you can get new baskets as well if you need them, if you lost them or just wanted to get some extras. So, kind of easy to replace these. You don't need any tools to pop out any of the parts, change anything else. So, that's super handy as well. And, of course, the last con that I have on these things, because, again, I do like these, is on my right hand, my green one, the one I did not loosen up very often. Put my hand in there. I will say, when I was using it like this, not a problem at all. The only issues I started to see towards the end on the grip itself is when I was actually descending steep sections. I'd move my hand around and put my palm on the very top like this and kind of put all my pressure on the trekking pole going down like this. And after a while, unfortunately, that did cause a bit of a tear. See if we can get that show on there. And again, I'm going to get some close-ups of some of the issues I was having, but that right there's a little bit of a tear that formed right on the bottom section of that opening where the strap goes through. So, did it hurt anything? No, it wasn't a functional problem at all. It was just at the end of the day. But if you're using some trekking poles or any gear whatsoever on a thru hike and you don't expect some kind of wear and tear on little things like that, I got some news for you. It's going to happen, and it's going to be your cheapest pieces all the way up to your most expensive pieces. You're going to get holes, you're going to get cracks, breaks. There will be wear and tear. It's just the nature of the game. So that's just something to see, something to keep in mind. So, what are my overall impressions of these trekking poles? I like them. I would definitely recommend them. You know, first and foremost, I do have to say that anytime you're going to have a company that treats its customers with respect when it comes to getting back to them in a very timely manner, especially a little cottage style company, American company like this, that's fantastic. That earns my loyalty, and I will go ahead and always recommend these if somebody's looking for a good quality piece of equipment. You know, super quick turnaround time. I got my new trekking poles. They were delivered to my home in about a week, and that includes the time it took to review my claim and the pictures I sent them to get the new ones sent out. No problem at all. They didn't charge them, obviously warranted. It's awesome. So what are my overall thoughts on my CNOC Outdoors carbon fiber trekking poles? I'm a fan. I really like them. They're super lightweight. They're durable. I like the way the cork grips fit in my hands really, really well. They're not perfect. I'd say I'd give them about an 8.5 out of 10. There were just a couple little things, like I mentioned, that I personally had issues with, and there are a couple things I might change here and there, but it's their product, and they make a great one so far. And again, being in a company that's actually really, really responsive to their customers. I mean, like I said, within a couple hours after I sent an email, I got a phone call back, and everything was squared away, taken care of. It wasn't the typical experience I've had with some other companies that shall remain nameless, where they were kind of giving me crap when I told them that one of their products wasn't really holding up to the standards that they themselves had set. So really, really cool. Got everything handled, no problem at all. But that's all the pros, cons, and my overall review, and that's kind of all I have to say about these today. Again, I would definitely recommend the CNOC Outdoors cork-handled carbon fiber trekking poles. Are they perfect? No. There's a couple things I might tweak here and there. I'd give them a solid 8.5 out of 10, but they're awesome. If you're looking for a nice ultralight pair of trekking poles to use to carry along, I can't say really anything else that I've used would be much better than these. So go ahead, check them out. Check out the website on CNOC Outdoors. If you have any questions or comments, or even have any recommendations on other things I should look at in terms of trekking poles and equipment like that, feel free to leave that down in the comments down below. But as for that, that's about all I have to say for today. So like I always say, thanks again for watching. Make sure you find a reason to smile today, and I'll catch you in the next one.